Hello, welcome to the shop. Today's video is interesting because I've already shot all the excerpts from it while I was doing a restoration on this plane here. So it's complete and ready to go back to its real owner. It's been a real treat of mine for me to play with it and to clean it up and to do some restoration on it. As you'll see in the beginning part of this video, you'll see close-ups of these different areas of this plane that are missing inlays and things like that, as well as the damage that was done to the iron and a lot of damage on the sole where this had sat in water, most likely for a long time in order to do the pitting that it had. Now I didn't take all that pitting away, mostly because I would have to lose so much depth to do that. But what I've done is I've cleaned up the sole of the plane, sanding it out on a piece of granite and sandpaper, and reducing the amount of rust there, as well as using a 3M to get rid of any other additional rust on it. The iron itself, as you'll see in the pictures, also had a lot of rust on it and pitting, and I didn't think I could save the iron because the iron had already been sharpened so much, and then sitting in water had really pitted the bottom of it a lot. But there was enough salvageable of this iron for me to take off quite a bit, and I reground it to a 25-degree bevel with a secondary of 30 degrees, and you can see the shavings that it's taking now are great. That wasn't the primary purpose of this restoration. The person who owns it really just wanted the appearance of it to be correct, and not necessarily that it would be a working plane again. But as you can see, I have gotten it to the point that it does a nice, beautiful shaving and will function well for him. But this video is really about what I had to do. The cap here was really pitted and oxidized in a lot of different places. So I had to take quite a bit of that down, and that's why it's such a shiny brass or bronze piece now. But I've dulled it a little bit to bring it back. So a nice cleanup on that, but not a heavy restoration. The purpose of this restoration was not to make this thing look like it came out of the factory, as I suspect it never did come out of a factory. Let's talk a little bit about the plane itself. I'm calling it a presentation plane because of all this intricate marquetry in it, inlays of ivory and boxwood, and you'll see where the way I restored the ivory, where this whole inlay here was gone, and you'll see that in the pictures. I had to cut new ivory, and luckily I had from a friend some ivory keys from a piano, and that's what I used to make these new inlays for it. And I had never cut ivory on my scroll saw before, and so I started off with too coarse of a bit of a saw blade, and that just shattered it immediately. So I luckily had some of these very, very fine jeweler's saw blades that belonged to my mother, and I put that on the Hegner and was able to tighten it down and hold it, and it did a beautiful job of cutting. Just had to take my time and use an extra fine blade and not rush the cut, and I was able to do these inlays here, and you'll see close-ups of it all throughout this video. And I don't mean for this introduction to just be the only part that I'm talking in this video, but it will seem that way to you because so much of the work is being done and photographed as I'm doing it and not really explained. But hopefully you'll come to that. Here, as the camera goes around, you can see the oxidation on the lever cap. That needs to be cleaned up, and there's some real digging in there that needs to be cleaned up. The top of the tote is missing. That'll have to be corrected. And on the front pad, you can see that it's missing some of the ivory inlay on the left side and completely gone on the right side. And so I'm going to have to do some work on that. Then as you go around, you can see that the body itself is oxidized a lot, and the inlays on the tote are very dark and hard to see, so we're going to have to do some cleanup on that. Here's the top of the tote, and that's going to have to be cut down and have a new piece put on. There are the inlays, and they're raised for some reason, I don't know why. This is the inside, and you see there's wood missing on the top of that. Here's the bottom. You can see how oxidized it is. And as well, you can see that horrible pitting. That's going to take some care to take care of it. The screw on the bottom there, I think, was added, and it will flush out a little bit as we go along. You can see that most of the ivory is missing, and here I'm starting to dig out what's left behind. Here you see the hollow for the nut on the iron on the tote is really roughly carved out. The two holes are from an auger. I removed the cap iron, and I believe it to be bronze and probably purchased from Matheson in Scotland. There is some damage on it that I think I can clean up, and on the back of it is the 2 3/8 inch size for the piece that was purchased separately. Here you see the Warden Payne iron and the damage to it. It's got some mushrooming on the top and a lot of oxidation on everything that'll need cleaning up. I've sawed off the top of the tote so it's flat, and I've matched a piece of mahogany, an old Cuban mahogany that I have, and cut a blank and just setting it there to take a look at it. Here I've started to glue it and need to shape the back of it still, but I can't do that until after it's glued in place to make sure that it's fitted right. Here I've used a couple of clamps to hold it in place while gluing. Here I'm fitting the piece of ivory in there, but where I had to carve out, you can see all around it that that wood was very punky, and I had to take out more than I wanted to, but that'll be filled in with some of the original wood. Tapping everything back on and off and things to fit everything as I worked. So here I am removing it a second time, maybe a third time, so that I can get to working on the finish of that I've already applied one coat of. And now I'm taking some 4/0 steel wool and smoothing down any of the little nibs and things on the finish that I applied. I like to do that between each one, and this plane towards the end will wind up with 5 coats of finish and then some wax, but in between each coat I take it back down using the filler, the wood, using the finish, sorry, to help fill whatever pores there are. And I use my fingers to feel any kind of roughness or nibs in there. Here what I'm doing is to peen out that mushroom head by stretching the iron out towards the top. If you notice the way I'm using the hammer on that anvil is I'm striking it while moving the hammer back towards me, which is taking that mushrooming and bending it back towards the end of the iron. As it flattens out, it's creating a sharp edge at the very top of the iron. And that's fine. I'm trying to stretch it out so that eventually both sides can meet each other as I bend them over towards each other. And I have to also peen the two sides of the iron because as it gets flatter, it will spread out into there and create some really sharp edges. That's why you keep seeing me testing it with my thumb to see how much is still left high. Then I can come back with the file and push that piece of metal over into itself, creating a new top portion to the iron. Now, with the file, I have to be careful. I don't want to take off too much of the face of the iron that will show up in the finished product. What I'm really trying to do is to use the file to push over that edge, that sharp edge that I created by peening, and have it fold over the top of it and meet the folded over part on the other side. Also using the file to clean up any sharp edges and make everything fairly even. Onto the sole. You can see the deep pitting. You can see the screw that was added unnecessarily. So I'm using some cutting fluid and some sandpaper on a piece of granite that I have. And I start working. And I work and I work and I work, and I can't tell you how much time I spent on it. More than the peening, and more, I think, maybe on the handle, but I don't think so. A lot of work, and I've cut out a lot of it so you're not having to watch me just planing a piece of sandpaper for 2 hours. I keep in the Minwax a little applicator of steel wool, 4/0 steel wool. And with that, I'm going to apply really gently and wax to the for the front, but I'm not doing it. I'm using the steel wool, but I'm not applying any pressure. All I want to do is catch any, if there's a high nib or something that wants to grab the piece of steel wool, then that'll take that off. But other than that, I'm not looking to dull the surface or anything. I'm just wanting to apply the wax and leave it gently deposited on the piece. And I did take it all the way down to the front nose, to the toe. This is still, I think, needs a little more. And then we'll go to the back. really want the wax on all the surfaces because it preserves any moisture, things that are in the wood, as well as what's outside from getting in. But if you don't get it all when you use it or you buff it, it's going to be different from one spot to another. So I like to use this period point to touch things and see if I feel any kind of coarseness or anything. I want it to be smooth to the touch. This is a handle after all. So there you have it. Here's the plane. I think it's a real beautiful plane. The marquetry in it, the sort of a folk art piece, I suppose. And you can see where the horn has been replaced and the other things about it that you've seen in the video. I hope the owner enjoys it and is happy with the work. And I hope he gets many, many years of enjoying this plane, because I think it's well worth his investment in getting it restored to working condition. Hey, thanks for coming into the shop today, and I hope this video worked out for you. I'm going to try to do some voiceovers, but I hope that turned out all right. If it didn't, I'm sorry. But come see me again, and maybe I'll go back to my old format. I don't know. I don't really know how this is going to work out yet. But until I see you again, y'all take care of yourselves.